for Borneo, the largest raid yet by the United States 13th Air Force. Flying from recently occupied Morotai Island, bombers head for Tarakan Island off the East Borneo coast. On the target, bombs rain down on the Tarakan oil fields, a vital source of supply for the Japanese Navy and for the Japanese divisions fighting in the Philippines. Tarakan oil of extremely high quality can be used by merely distilling away its water content. Because of this punishing raid, much of that oil is now lost to the enemy as smoke from the burning fuel rises 10,000 feet in the air. The 79th Congress, Vice President Henry Wallace, Vice President-elect Harry Truman, and congressional leaders leave the White House after conferring with President Roosevelt before the opening of the new United States Congress. Mr. Wallace, Speaker of the House Rayburn, Senator Barkley, Vice President Truman, Representative McCormick. New senators from Indiana, Iowa, New Jersey, and Oregon are among the Republican Party members recently elected. To the Democratic majority in the Senate belong new senators from Pennsylvania, Arkansas, Connecticut, North Dakota, and South Carolina. Women of both parties were elected to the House of Representatives. Congress convened. The newly elected Speaker of the House, Mr. Rayburn, takes his place. He is congratulated by Representative Martin, Minority Leader. United in aim, Congress starts work on new war legislation. Torpedoes for the Navy. Complicated mechanisms that must be accurate. Each is tested by an actual launching before battle service. The torpedo, its explosive removed, is placed in the compressed air firing tube. At a speed of from 25 to 45 knots, it is sent on its way. Just beneath the water's surface, over a 6,000-yard course, the torpedo speeds on its way. From an observation tower, its course is checked. Now another. Nearing the end of its run, the torpedo slows down. A blimp checks its course from above. On the surface, with its run complete, the torpedo is salvaged. If in any way imperfect, it will be dismantled, checked, rebuilt, then tested again. Each torpedo is launched twice, once in the trial run, once again when it hurtles toward the enemy. Constant full-scale testing helps make certain that the torpedoes do not miss their mark. A new accord for freedom of the press, of motion pictures and communications among the United Nations. At Washington, delegates assemble to sign the new charter, establishing an information service, a war and peacetime pooling of information vital to the member nations. Signing for the United States is Elmer Davis, Director of the Office of War Information, a pledge that in war and peace there shall be truth. Mr. Davis speaks of the United Nations' common purpose.
The world's information agencies have progressed prodigiously since the last peace settlement, a quarter of a century ago. The press, oldest and most tried of all media of communication, has now a circulation and influence far greater than in those days. The motion picture, in its infancy at the last peace conference, has become one of the most powerful agencies of international knowledge, free of any of the limitations of language and with all the appeal that comes from actually permitting the public to see events. The world of tomorrow must be a world of the freest flow of news and information among its different component nations.
In New York, clothing is sorted before shipment overseas by UNRRA, the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration. United States religious groups, Protestant, Catholic, and Jewish, organized the nationwide voluntary donation campaign. The clothing is compressed into bales to save space in transport. UNRRA Director General Herbert Lehman has announced that the response by American church groups will exceed the goal of 15 million pounds. The bales begin their journey to areas which have felt the worst deprivations of war. Just as it was donated, it will be distributed without regard to race or creed, as a gigantic task of rehabilitation and relief is carried forward by the United Nations. A P-38 Lightning fighter plane fitted with loads of aircraft rockets under its wings. Below, a tank is the target. A P-47 Thunderbolt fires in slow motion. Tremendous firepower, a mighty new weapon against the enemy. Silicone, a new heat-resistant plastic which may someday be a widely used substitute for rubber. It is formed into sheets which stretch like chewing gum. Rolled into a ball, it feels like putty. But while putty falls dead, silicone bounces like live rubber. Silicone is limp and pliable before vulcanization. It resists both extreme heat and extreme cold. After vulcanizing, it becomes tough and elastic. Its industrial uses today are manifold. Removed from 300-degree heat, silicone is unharmed, whereas after the same treatment, rubber is burned to a crisp. Softening up Luzon, preparatory to landing, a carrier task force of the Pacific Fleet in the Philippine Sea carries the air war to the enemy. Navy Hellcats and Helldivers trained their guns on Japanese ships in Luzon waters near Manila, capital of the Philippines, in the teeth of murderous anti-aircraft fire. Machine guns rake the decks. Bombs score near hits. Japanese ships twist and turn in the attempt to escape. Inland, guns blast airfields around Manila. Following these attacks, heavy American forces landed on Luzon Island in the battle to liberate the Philippines.